I'm Bob Ferguson, resident of Weston, Connecticut. I'd like to thank Senator Looney, Representative Minor, and the other members of the committee for sticking around this long. I know it's been a long day and it'll be a long night. Virtually all of the media reports that we've seen regarding the horrible tragedy in Newtown that took place have referred to Adam Lanza as a shooter. Let's be very clear. Adam Lanza was a psychopathic killer. There are no similarities whatsoever between Adam Lanza and a shooter. I'm speaking today in opposition to a number of the proposed bills that address legally owned firearms and additional restrictions on law-abiding citizens. In my appendix, I've listed 46 specific bills that I oppose and 20 which I support, and to be honest with you, I lost count when we approached 100. Most of the proposed legislation focuses on a massive expansion of our current so-called assault weapons ban. They do not focus on military or military-style firearms like you've heard in the press and by many people speaking here today. Many of these bills attempt to reclassify modern sporting rifles as assault weapons. In fact, under these same bills, as they are written currently, the same semi-automatic .22 caliber rifle that I used in the Boy Scouts to learn how to shoot at age 12 would actually be classified as an assault weapon under some of the bills as they're written. This is a disingenuous attempt to ban an entire class of commonly owned firearms, which, by the way, is the specific language that the Supreme Court ruled against in D.C. versus Heller. Which brings us to numerous bills regarding magazine capacity. Connecticut citizens have an explicit stated right to use firearms for self-defense per our state constitution. Police officer guidelines per the Office of Legislative Research justify the use of firearms as the number one purpose is for defense of himself or someone else. All the firearms used by both citizens and the police department have standard magazine capacities between 12 and 20 rounds. By introducing a limit on magazine capacity for Connecticut citizens, you're effectively stating that citizens should have more limits on their own personal defense than the police forces that are supported by their tax dollars. Look at the facts of the Columbine massacre in 1999. This occurred while an assault weapons ban was in place and a magazine ban was in place. One of the assailants fired 96 shots from 13 10-round magazines. Now that's a fact. I want you to hear that again. 96 shots from 13 10-round magazines. The other assailant fired 55 shots from 3 larger magazines. The idea that you can increase safety for our children by limiting magazine capacity for law-abiding citizens is simply grasping at straws. I would ask you to turn back the clock 5 years ago to the beginning of the legislative session in 2008, right after the brutal Cheshire home invasions. Would any of you at that point been willing to sponsor legislation that limited the rights of citizens to protect themselves, limited magazine capacity, or limited possession of commonly owned firearms? I would argue that you wouldn't. A lot of these measures really just offer feel-good measures at this point in time and restrict the rights of Connecticut citizens. With all due respect, if these bills represent your best shot to protect our children and increase safety, then you wouldn't hit the broadside of a barn. Adam Lanza made the decision to commit murder long before he even picked up a firearm, and as much as you would like, you can't stop a bullet with a piece of paper. And if I could just mention one more thing specifically to Representative Minor. Representative Minor proposed Bill 6248, which is a bill that all of you should support regardless of your opinion on firearms. This preempts the regulation of firearms by municipalities, and being a resident of Weston myself, I applaud preventing local boards to run amok in passing their own firearms legislation.